Hey, welcome back Guardians, Fallout here with another God Roll video for you. Today, we're tackling a weapon that has been highly requested, the Hammerhead machine gun. And because a good number of you have been frequently asking for it, today's God Roll video is going to focus on the ideal PvE role, which I think is more suiting for a weapon like the Hammerhead. Machine guns aren't bad in Crucible, but most of the time you're probably going to be running around with a rocket or grenade launcher or a unique exotic power weapon like the Wardcliffe coil. I'm kind of excited to be looking at a machine gun today. There are currently only 3, count them, 3 of these in the game. The Avalanche, the Thunderlord, and the Hammerhead. One gun for each element. The Hammerhead is great for PvE, a hard-hitting power weapon with lots of ammo, perfect for shredding through both adds and majors. Of course, being a legendary, it frees you up to pair together with the Risk Runner, the Huckleberry, the Polaris Lance, the Hardlight, the Suros Regime, or whatever your favorite exotic primary PvE weapon might be. Alright, let's take a look under the hood and see what we've got to work with here. We're going to start off on the far left with barrel selection. 9 total choices here, a lot of the usual suspects. We got arrowhead brake, chambered compensator, corkscrew rifling, extended barrel, fluted barrel, full bore, hammer forged rifling, polygonal rifling, and small bore. As per usual, we're going to be separating barrel choices depending on if you play D2 with a controller or if you play with mouse and keyboard. If you're on M&K, take a quick breather from telling console people how much better the game is on PC and focus on finding a Hammerhead with full bore. Range is king to M&K players and stability means next to nothing to them. If you're too miffed by the -5 to handling offered by full bore, look for hammer forged rifling for a flat out +10 range buff. Controller users, your pick is slightly more complicated. This is all going to boil down with how difficult you feel the Hammerhead is to control. If you find yourself wanting a little more stability, you could go for chambered compensator. Gives you some stability and more vertical recoil direction. If you really have a lot of trouble with the recoil, you could go for arrowhead brake, which gives you a both nice little handling buff and a strong vertical recoil kick, making the gun more easy to manage. I mean, yeah, you'll be missing out on some of the range that M&K folks get, but whatever. Remember, this isn't PvP. Your damage drop-off point isn't gonna get you outgunned by a thrall. I'm gonna go with arrowhead brake for the quality recoil direction buff, but because this is a PvE god roll, you can be a little bit lenient. If you want a barrel with stability, or hell, even range, go for it. All comes down to how well you think you handle the weapon already. Next up, Column 2, mag perks. 8 choices here. Now normally, if you recall on our other God Roll weapon vids that focus on PvP, we're usually looking for range in this department, maybe stability depending on the weapon. That's because for PvP, those stats are usually pretty crucial to winning 1v1s. For PvE, I think the more ideal weapon roll is going to let you carve through more and more enemies. So, despite the fact that we have a lot of good options here on the table, I'm going to jump directly to extended mag. Yeah, this doesn't give you any range or stability or handling or anything fancy like that, but it does give you something that you'll greatly appreciate in the PvE landscape, a large mag upgrade in the form of 14 extra bullets. That is more shots to fire before needing to interrupt the flow of combat with a reload. Now, I do want to give a few shoutouts here. Armor piercing rounds is cool for damaging shields harder and over penetrating your targets. That's pretty great when you're shredding through paper thin adds that are clustered closely together. High caliber rounds is also pretty cool because they flinch and knock your target back. And finally, appended mag also gives you more bullets in the mag, albeit less than extended mag. And by the way, I know you could put a backup mag weapon mod on your Hammerhead and you'd get the same amount of extra ammo provided by extended mag. But because we're using the gun in PvE, I'd rather fit it with either a minor spec, major spec, or boss spec mod because that translates to more damage. If you're asking me, more bullets before the reload in the form of extended mag is the winner. Column 3, moving on to the fun stuff, and man, we got a couple of interesting options here. 6 in total. Let's weed out what we don't want, and this is my favorite part because somebody in the comments section always freaks out when I pick their favorite perk. Starting with Shield Disorient. Let's be on the same page here. When you pull off the effect of Shield Disorient, it's pretty cool. Break the shield of a matching element type enemy and you make a little explosion. Not bad. The part I get hung up on is that you have to match the element type. So in the case of the Hammerhead, this is only going to work on void shielded enemies like Minotaurs. We're looking for perks that we can take advantage of fairly frequently, and this ain't it. Next. Now, for the love of God, calm down in advance. Dynamic sway reduction. Let me tell you, this perk is a lot harder to wrap your head around than you'd think. By the text of the perk, you'd think it would be a really reliable option to reduce weapon sway and make your shots more accurate over time. In playing around with the weapon perk though, I can't really see a noticeable difference in how much dynamic sway reduction actually works. In testing, I even tried shooting in a rift with Lunafaction boots, to give the perk more time to kick in. I gotta tell you, it wasn't really wowing me. If you're looking for a perk in column 3 to help out with your accuracy, I'm gonna recommend Tap the Trigger. Now, in testing that, way more of a noticeable difference in making your weapon sway and overall accuracy fall into line. Given the choice between the two, after what I've seen, I'm gonna go for Tap the Trigger almost every time. But I don't really have that problem when using the Hammerhead. I find it relatively accurate already, so I'm gonna pass on both. Now we have Quick Draw. Usually in PvP, this perk comes highly recommended on almost all weapons. And for good reason. Being able to swap to and or draw your weapon faster by even a few frames could be the difference between life and death. In PvE though, not really so much. Threat Detector, increased reload, stability, and handling when enemies are in close proximity. Not bad, especially for PvE, when it's very likely that you're constantly gonna get charged by mindless ads over and over. I think the winner here is Feeding Frenzy. If there's one thing machine guns hate, it's reloading. The average machine gun reload time is far longer than your average primary weapon. Feeding Frenzy activates on kills, which is easy peasy lemon squeezy when you're rocking firepower like the Hammerhead. Get a kill, speed up the reload time, and you're back to being a bullet spewing monster. What's not to love? And column 4, what do we have here? 6 options, some of them surprisingly not bad. Let's go through each in no particular order. Genesis. I like that by breaking a combatant's shield, you auto-refill your mag from reserves. That's actually pretty hot, but unfortunately, like many weapons we wind up talking about here, Genesis suffers from a very common disease called not as good as the other perks here-itis. Very contagious. You know who else got that diagnosis lately? Mulligan. Missing a shot has a chance to return ammo directly to your magazine. Now I like that idea on paper of having more bullets popping back into your mag in the event that you miss them. I'd probably be more keen on recommending Mulligan though if the activation chance wasn't so damn low. I actually tested Mulligan by firing off exactly 100 bullets and marking down which ones came back and which ones didn't. I did this because I have very little respect for my own free time. Turns out only 22 of the 100 shots I fired went back into the mag, so why don't we be generous and say that Mulligan has a 25-ish% rate of return. That's okay, but I prefer leaning on perks that work more frequently and maybe aren't tied directly to me effing up. Ambitious Assassin. I actually really like this perk for the Hammerhead. Get a bunch of kills, reload your weapon, and boom, your mag is gigantic. Sadly, the appeal of more bullets is outclassed heavily by the appeal of massive extra damage output. So let's look at the remaining 3 perks that grant more damage. High Impact Reserves, believe it or not, this is the overall winner. Yep, end the video right now because nothing compares. I'm just yanking you. This perk is wet garbage. High Impact Reserves only begin to kick in when your bullets reach the 50% point in your gun's mag. And I'm impatient, alright? It's my extra damage. I want it now. Not to mention that the damage buff granted by high impact reserves is weak compared to other options in the game. At the very bottom of the mag, where the more powerful bullets are, that only tops out at about 25-ish%. And again, that's only the last few bullets. You're gradually building up to that 25%. No. We can do better. Surrounded. I like this perk for PvE. You're usually being surrounded by enemies, so why not take advantage of that with this perk? Now, in terms of damage output, you are staring down the barrel of about an extra 30% more damage. Not bad. It doesn't require you to dig deep into your mag to activate, and you don't even need to get kills to have the extra damage kick in. All good things. In fact, if you have a Hammerhead with both Surrounded in column 4 and Threat Detector in column 3, you could be constantly charging into battle to take advantage of both those perks together. You could also throw on a Surrounded spec mod to get a minor buff to surrounded damage, a whole extra 1%. Don't spend it all in one place, kid, but having the perk linger briefly when no longer surrounded is a nice touch. Big shocker though, my official recommendation is Rampage. Wow, however did you guess? Tell me down in the comment section below how shocked you were that Rampage is the column 4 winner. Look, I know it's overused, but for good reason. Remember, we're talking about PvE god rolls here, and PvE is where Rampage is king. Unlike Crucible in PvE, Rampage times 3 can take you all the way up to a plus 65 damage buff. That is huge and not at all difficult to get with a weapon like the Hammerhead. Even Rampage level 2 already puts you ahead of both surrounded and high impact reserves in the damage department. Not to mention, you can continuously extend the duration of Rampage by getting more kills. It's kind of a no-brainer. I know Rampage is the basic bitch, overused, overdone, pumpkin spice latte of PvE weapon perks, but it's tried and true. For your weapon mod pick, if you're on M&K, I'm going to say range or reload. If you're on controller, stability or reload. Dealer's choice. Depends on if you want more control on your weapon or a slightly quicker reload. If you're asking me, I'll go reload. Make that feeding frenzy go even quicker. So let's review what is our PvE Hammerhead god roll. Full bore for the M&K folk out there. Arrowhead break or whatever barrel you prefer for controller. Extended mag, feeding frenzy, Rampage, and either range or reload masterwork for M&K or a stability or reload masterwork for controller. And that's all she wrote. Get out there and try to forge yourself a well-rolled Hammerhead. You won't regret it. Cuts through PvE ads like a hot knife through room temperature butter. Please let me know down in the comment section what other weapons you would like to see a god roll breakdown for, and if you enjoyed today's content, please give this video a like. If you're new here, please feel free to subscribe. It's free and it feeds my soul. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you learned something. See you next time.